by U.S. Senator Mark Warner of Virginia to talk about this issue. This is a terrible time for America, and it renews the discussion about gun control and assault weapons. Do you think that we need to get tougher legislation, and how do we do that?
Cheryl, I've been a long-time supporter of Second Amendment rights. You know, I believe every American has Second Amendment rights, and that the ability to hunt is part of our culture. I've had an NRA rating of an A, but you know, enough is enough. I'm father of 3 daughters, and this weekend they all said, "Dad, you know, how can this go on?" And I think most of us, realize that there are ways to get to rational gun control. There are ways to grapple with the obvious challenges of mental illness. And the idea that we can just kind of ignore this issue, I join with the President, and I think reasonable folks in both parties, and I think the overwhelming majority of Americans who are gun owners, who believe that we've got to put stricter rules on the books. Now, what those specifics ought to be, I mean, you know, there'll be time for that. I mean, today the first 2 funerals of these children are taking place. So I join with, I hope, what will be a majority of both Democrats and Republicans. There should not be a Democrat or Republican position on this. It is time for this kind of senseless violence to end. And there won't be one perfect law that's going to stop a crazy person from doing evil things. But when we have close to 30,000, you know, killings a year from all types of gun violence, even if we save a few lives, we make progress. And I can answer my daughters with a better answer than I gave them on Friday night.
Yeah. The President talked about the fact that this has to be taken care of as a bipartisan issue. Got to throw the politics out on this. Do you think this is something the lawmakers can come to an agreement on?
I hope and pray that it, you know, the idea, and obviously we in Virginia have suffered these tragedies. We all recall the horrible tragedy at Virginia Tech. But somehow to see, you know, these little kids, there's no such thing that any of those kids had, you know, or their parents for that matter. We see them as our fellow Americans. And I absolutely believe that people of goodwill in both political parties can find a rational way to get to rules that can be better enforced and still preserve that basic American right as well of hunting and you know, and reasonable gun ownership.
And you mentioned the issue of health care and mental health care. That became the issue with the Virginia Tech shooter. We don't know what the case is with the shooter in this case, but obviously there was a problem there. Where do we go to help people who need help in this kind of situation?
That again goes to this notion that if you look in America versus, say, countries in Europe, there seems to be a better ability elsewhere for people to intervene earlier. You know, the challenge again comes down, are we ready as a society to commit the resources we need to intervene, not when somebody is at that point of extremis. Some of our laws now say we can only intervene if a person is a threat to themselves or an immediate threat to themselves or others. Well, sometimes you don't know that. We have to make sure that we find ways that, particularly some of these young people that we've seen, the situation in Colorado, the situation in Virginia Tech, these are clearly troubled individuals, and for their sake, for the safety of the community, we've got to make sure that we have better mental health intervention as well.
Well, we'll be watching what lawmakers in Washington do to better protect us. Thank you, Senator, for joining us today. And we